Hey, everybody. Happy Thursday and welcome to Freddy Live. I am honored to be joined today by Jon Ellis, the founder and CEO of Agile Auto. Jon, welcome to Freddy Live. You are a good buddy of mine, and it's great to see you. And let everybody know who you are, where you're from, and a little bit of what you do.
Yeah, thanks, John. I was excited to be here. I love your show. I love what you do in our industry. Your reputation precedes you. It's excited to be invited. Um, we know a lot of the same people. I've worked in this industry for almost 25 years. Started in retail. Spent a big chunk of my time with Cox Automotive. Retired there just a few years ago to build Agile Auto to really help solve some of the post-COVID problems that dealers are going to face after the heyday. We all made a ton of money in the middle, but now we're having to work hard and smart. So smart is better than hard. So we're trying to bring some smarts to our operational dealer business model, and that was our attempt with Agile Auto. So excited to be with you today, partner.
Thank you, Jon. And my favorite kind of car guy is somebody who spent some time in stores, looked around, learned a little or a lot, and then took what you learned and applied it to entrepreneurship. And I know that's not, easy way to go, but you did it. So when were you working in stores? Was that when you were in college at LSU or immediately after?
Yeah, certainly. It was in college. I was LSU, which you know a lot of opinions about that place. So we'll leave it there. Worked at a store
We'll
called
we'll settle
Salisbury.
that in September, Jon. We got a game.
Ugh, I'm nervous. All right, so yeah, I worked at a store called Salisbury, Dodge City. It was a great experience, but as we discussed earlier, I knew then that I didn't want to be in store. I really loved the sales game. I loved the automotive business, but sitting in a store all day was not a good fit for my type A personality. Right, I run around like a chicken with my head cut off. So I finished LSU. I was in the Marine Corps, and then when I got out of that, I
Oh,
went into tech. So I was a Microsoft certified systems engineer for a good chunk of my early career, working on networks and fiber optic routings in the telecom industry, and moved into automotive in '03.
nice. And then you landed at Cox Automotive. What were you selling when you were at Cox Automotive?
Yeah, I started just carrying a bag with Auto Trader. First couple of years in Mississippi, meeting dealers, talking about advertising. Literally, John had to go buy a computer for one of my independent lots so they could get on Auto Trader. They didn't even have a computer here in Mississippi,
There's
right?
no jokes to be made about the state of Mississippi in that comment. But Jon, so what did you learn about approaching a car dealership? What's the secret to being someone coming in off the street? You do have the backing of Cox Automotive, which is an extremely credible organization. I've never been in a circumstance like that. I've always said, "Hey, I'm Jon from so and so," and they say, "Who? Huh? What?" And I
Yeah,
said, "That
yeah,
doesn't matter. I'm Jon. Nice to meet you." But
yeah.
how do you enter a car dealership, make a friend, and sell something? What's the key to that?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is to speak their language. And so when I go there, I just try to listen and talk car language. I don't want to be techie. I don't want to be corporate. I don't want to be any of that stuff. I just want to be a person you can relate to. And then we'll talk about if there are any issues we can address together. But you don't walk
It's
in there
so
and start
funny
telling
you
your
say that.
background.
I just did a demo for a product, and somebody was riding along on the product, and they were saying, I used to do enterprise sales in my first career. Why don't you let me take the next one? And they wanted to talk about all that, like, just like they were injecting the techie stuff. I said, brother, this isn't that. Like these organizations play at that level. They're that dollar value. They're that
Mhm.
sophisticated. But these are people that you talk to like a friend, or you talk to in a way where you're trying to display your acumen in the industry.
Right, 100%. And yeah, I was at Used Car Week this week, and I talked to some of those big corporate folks, and they were building new things. And the first question I asked was, "What does the dealer say? Not
Yeah.
what do you want to build, but what do they like it? Are they on board, or are you just building that because it's cool?"
Well, that's where rubber's meeting the road right now, Jon, because I think that California, the best tech scene in America, has discovered automotive. The first vendor that was nice enough to let me sell their stuff was Full Path, and they were from
Hmm.
Tel Aviv, right? A great tech scene there. But suddenly, the premium tech scenes around the world have discovered our industry. So first of all, we're attracting people that are smarter than us. That's a danger to
Mhm.
you and me. But at the same time, how do you think those people, how do the big brain people do when they enter the ring here in automotive?
Yeah, I think they have to be careful because you can overwhelm your client. And we've been in store. We know our clientele is they're just workers. They're hardworking folks. They're good people, good hearts, love their community. They're not trying to be, some intelligent leader in their community. They just want to be good operators. And so if we go in there and try to make them into something they're not, it's going to be rigid. We have to be very careful.
And early on in your career, John, did you travel a lot? I know you're still hitting the shows, but like, with COVID and work from home, are you able to kind of like do a few days work from home and only attend the big events? Or are you a door to door guy at any point? Or like, what do you think? Where does our industry live? Can you be very efficient from work from home, or do you still have to go and visit clients?
Yeah, so in my Cox days, I went from Auto Trader to V Auto to Manheim to EV Battery Solutions, and in the middle of that, I was doing about 35 to 40,000 miles a year. Tennessee,
That
Mississippi, Alabama,
hurts.
Florida. It
You know what
hurts.
happens when you have that schedule? You get addicted to talk radio. It was Howard Stern. It was Howard Stern for me back in the day. I knew the people that
100%.
worked in the accounting office of Howard
Yeah.
Stern. That's how
Yes.
much on the road I was.
Yes. You know the life. And so and then I moved into the major accounts with Manheim. So when I go to these big corporate meetings like Rorman or Cochrane or Napleton, it disrupted their whole day, bringing
Yeah,
Cox in to do their work. So when COVID hit, I found out real quickly, and it's how I run my business today. They don't need you there all the time. Maybe on an
no.
install, maybe on a quarterly or biannual basis, but they don't want you in there every week. It's disruptive to their business. So we run our organization virtually with when we bring on an H Greg or an Auto Canada, certainly we go in person just to make
Yeah.
sure we know everybody. But after that, we manage that account remotely mostly. Yeah.
And then, you and I are in the same game. Like when we think of the map of the United States, we go Rorman in the Midwest, Ziegler in Chicago, Coons in the Mid Atlantic, Mergado down in the Southeast, Swickards in Texas. Like, is your mind just fully overlaid with the names of the dealer groups across the country?
It's the fortunate 6 years I spent in major accounts. I know where they all are, and I
And
managed a
then
lot of them. Yeah, so yeah,
And then, John, what's the key to generating an opportunity with a major account? And then, how do you treat it when you get the at bat? Because when I'm selling technology into like a 3 to 5 rooftop group, it's just you and your buddy, and you're talking baseball, and they either
yeah,
take it or they don't take it. But then suddenly, when you stand before a publicly traded auto group or a regional group, they're going to ask you if you're SOC 2 certified, or like these technical questions where you're like, let me get someone for
yeah.
you. But how do you generate a huge opportunity, and how do you close a huge opportunity? Like you said, you just closed Auto Canada.
Mhm.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, so it starts with relationships. So fortunately, I have a lot now. Auto Canada, I didn't have one, but I built one with the COO. But that didn't get us the account. I still have to win his bench, his
Yeah.
leadership bench, and so sometimes it can be a detriment. It can be a hindrance, not an advantage to have a relationship with the COO or the CEO. Dan Clare is the new CEO of Asbury, and we're talking, but Dan's not going to do business with us. His people will do business with us. So our job to get in there is a relationship with Dan Clara, with Denny Patton, with Fade at Auto
And
Canada. And
do you endorse breaking up a sales team into like a small account team and an enterprise team? Because sometimes I think that's really frustrating and stupid. I live in Jacksonville, Florida. I remember I wasn't allowed to talk to that 15 rooftop group that's here that I won't say
yeah,
their name. And I said, "Hey guys, I like know the owner. We play golf at Ponte Vedra Club. I could get this one tomorrow." And they're like, "No,
hmm
you're on the regional team, not the enterprise team." So like, are you you're not that rigid, are you?
we're not. We have a sales and performance management team that we certainly try to put the best fit with the accounts based on personality. Like, we had to hire an Canada performance manager for Auto Canada, speak the
Oh
language,
yeah.
know the culture, but we want people of that higher caliber all throughout our organization. So if there's any reason that you wouldn't do that, then what do you think about your people, right?
John,
So
what do you think of the Canadian market? Because we just signed the biggest automotive media property in Canada, Mercedes Benz, of downtown Calgary. Maz, the general manager there, is like a Hollywood director caught in a general manager's body. Like we ask him to do a 60-second ad read, and he brings in a production team, and he's got like
Oh, wow.
cinematography, and we're like, this is like working in Hollywood. But
Mm,
I've come to love the automotive market. We're working with
mm.
Maz to kind of make him the face of the automotive business in Canada, kind of like Saliba, or you know the drill with the goofy things I do. But what have you thought of the Canadian market?
I think I'm excited to work with them. They are sponges. They love tech. They want an advantage. They always feel like maybe they've been left behind for some things.
Yes,
Cox
they
and
need a
Cox
little
left.
attention. They
They
got they get a
do.
little neglected. All these car dealers in America that say that we call them too much, we pester them, we
Yeah,
annoy them. The Canadians, they give you the warm and fuzzies. They're
hundred
happy that
percent.
you even care.
Yeah, so our calls with them and even our group calls at the executive level, they're interested. They want to know what you have to say. They want to learn about the tech and how it can help. And they're really, they're very engaged. And it's in the US, it's hard to get engagement. You have to work really hard.
I've seen like the M&A groups, they've all like ventured up into Canada. It seems to be like a new frontier for them, like aggregating Canadian rooftops.
Mhm.
John, was it hard for you to score a gig outside of the dealership and go get your first vendor gig? Was that hard to make the transition?
It wasn't because I had worked all those years in telecom and I think I told you cellular. So I had been a journeyman
Mm.
selling for so long between dealership and then Cox. The hardest part with me when I left Houston in '03, I was regional vice president. I had 500 people working for me in telecom.
Oh, I didn't
I
know you like killed it in telecom and then fell back
Well, it
here.
was the bust, if you remember. It was a deregulation of the industry, and all these other CLECs popped up, and we had investment money. So there was a ton of us out there, and we got sucked back in when they regulated the industry again. And my wife wanted to move home to Mississippi. I had to pick
Yeah.
up a bag with Auto Trader. I hadn't sold in years,
Let's
and the first
go.
question I had to tell myself was, "John, now you have to prove to yourself that all those years of sales leadership, you were telling your people the truth. Go do what you've
Oh
been
man.
telling them to do, right?"
I've
And
been
so it
looking
was
at
fun.
myself in the mirror this whole week going, should I pick up the call, make a few sales calls, or should I
Yeah.
not? This,
Yeah,
like, but
I
I'll
love
tell
it
you what,
though.
John, when I was at Coons, I was kind of an ascendant young guy. I now work with some people that used to be my boss. You and I were
Mm,
just talking to George O'Connor. He used to be my boss. And I worked like crazy. I felt like I had a shot at the title in the Coons group. I was trying to make my way to the top, working 6 days a week like a psycho in Washington, D.C., which is more normal in D.C. than Florida or other places. But I got my legs cut out from under me, and I had a health scare at 26. I was a general sales
oh,
manager. I got like a terrible
wow.
health diagnosis. Long story short, I had a
Mm,
seizure. And then I ended up washing out of the business because of that with an ambiguous diagnosis. And then I burned my career to the ground, moved to Florida. When I got down here, I got a clean medical diagnosis. So
mm.
it's like this
Oh,
gift from God,
praise
right?
God.
Like
Yeah,
I gave
yes.
I gave it all
Amen.
up. I'm down here. I have got an 8-month-old baby, and I go, what do I do? Well, I know the car business. I better lean on that. I better figure
Yeah.
that out. But nobody would
Mhm.
hire me. I couldn't get a territory manager for the worst vendor in the world. Nobody would do it. So what I did is I started a call center with a buddy of mine who's a surfer down in St. Augustine, and he'd always been going to Puerto Rico or Nicaragua to surf. And then he had a
Mm.
partner down there at a big call center. And what we did is we like integrated a telephony. COVID just happened. We were doing second and third chance phone calls through a call center in Nicaragua through like this giant telephony. And John, I got it up to like 100 agents, and
Wow.
it was insane. It was like, oh, no one was going to let you be a vendor. Well, I'm going to go like create this thing. And I think that's
Yeah,
probably the story of my life. That's the story of my life, right? Wasn't
yeah,
invited, did it anyway. And
yeah.
then I was in NADA, and I remember walking through the door in NADA, and I was like inspired. Like, look at all these people selling things to car dealers. I didn't even know this existed. And then I got a call from the partner in Nicaragua, and he was like, "Hey, how much are you selling these guys for?" I said, $50 an hour, and they cost me like 150 a week. So like, yeah, I had a spread. And he was like, "All right, they just became 1,000 a week." And I was like, "Oh, well, we don't have a
Whoa.
business anymore, so thank
Right.
you." And it just hung up. And then the next booth I walked up to was Auto Lead Star, which became Full Path. And, you know, Mike Colaccio told me that like he didn't want to hire in-store car guys, but I had been doing my MBA at University of Florida. So he like gave me a shot, and I ended up doing pretty well, but I really had to fight tooth and nail to get anything. And then
Hmm.
even when I got something, it was tenuous. And then I really think that Full Path gave me the shot because they're foreign. Like they don't have context of like,
Yeah, they didn't
oh,
know.
don't hire in-store guys, hire the guy from Cox Automotive. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I was very blessed, and it, you know, I that's how I got into this whole mess.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you, Cox Automotive was smart enough mid Auto Trader to Cox Absorption to start hiring GMs and used car managers, because you have to know the language, and you have to know the environment. You have to be able to say, if I haven't sat in your seat, I've been in the store and I know what you're talking
Yeah.
about, Mr. Dealer, and I think we can help there. You can't go in there as a like a copier salesman and start trying to sell
The
them.
thing is, though, in-store people, you have to get serious about prospecting. Are you going to go kick down doors? Are you going to leverage LinkedIn? This is like you were just talking about. You brought outside sales strategies into Agile Auto so that the used car managers have some sort of outbound prospecting concept. But I want to ask you, John, like, what gave you the confidence to found a tech company? Like,
Mm,
who are you? What the hell were you thinking?
100%.
Did you have,
Okay.
did you have a bunch of money you wanted to waste? What was going on?
I love the question, who are you? Because I promise God that I would tell him it's not me, it's him, and it is. I don't think I haven't wanted to own tech. I wanted to own software my whole life, and I forayed in it. I had a website called Homesick GI that was good for military families deployed, and that didn't. Monster.com came out with something better, so that didn't work, and I failed a bunch. But
Wow, good for you for saying that. Fail it if you're successful, you've failed 100 times before.
oh, I can't tell you. I've lost enough money to say I've had a couple of MBAs, and so when I was consulting, I was using spreadsheets, and I had something I knew worked. The process and the math worked, but it wasn't
Wow.
scalable.
You
And
were
so
consulting one-on-one, one-to-one car dealers were retaining John Ellis because you were a used car wizard.
yes, and I was using spreadsheets that they could see that it worked. I could prove the accountability piece, but I knew it wasn't scalable. So I went to JR and I said, "Hey, listen, you've been a client of mine for a few years. Does this work?" Yes. So dealers would buy this, yes. So we need to scale
Yeah.
this. I've got money. Would you want to add a little bit of money and we can build this thing together? And that was almost 4 years ago. And yeah, so we got in and
That's
did
a
it. And
common thread when I started the Rust Flips Whips training, JR was like my third client, you know,
yeah,
and I called him and JR paid the money, and it was New Year's Eve 2 years ago that me and Russ were in that little small town in West Virginia. You know, it's funny, John. Russ and his brother always travel together. Russ, his
yeah.
brother, one other guy from the store, and you've been to that town in West Virginia. It's
Mm.
small. They brought their girlfriends on New Year's Eve, and we were in a Marriott courtyard in the middle of nowhere, and these girls brought New Year's Eve gowns. And I was like, guys, what did you tell them that we're going to
Where
like
we were going,
Chicago or
right? Yeah,
something?
you might get
We are
killed
in
for
the
that.
middle
Yeah.
of West Virginia.
Yeah. It was I drove to West Virginia from Laurel, Mississippi in my Tesla Model 3. It was a challenge.
Wow. Was that a zigzag? How'd you find a charger in three of those states?
I did. Tesla's done amazing with chargers. So yeah, I was able to not deviate off the path too much. Actually, traded my Model 3 long range for a Model 3 Performance with JR, which is why I went up there with it. I had to trade out
Yeah.
two Teslas, but I've been up there twice, and each time I go, I feel like I'm in Deliverance. Yeah,
Let's talk. It is Deliverance, but it's a great place. I love it
I
out there.
love
So
that
let's
place.
let's talk about J.R. Toothman because I think he's one of the most inspiring entrepreneurs in the automotive industry. J.R. Toothman has a Ford store that when you're coming up on it, you're like, is this the right place? I believe it's on Route 50 in West Virginia in the middle of nowhere. And what's the name of the town?
Grafton,
Grafton, West
Graf.
Virginia. I'll put it this way. When we said, where should we go for lunch? They said, like, oh, go to Terry's house. And Terry's house was a guy who made us a hot dog. It was a guy's house. He made us a hot dog. It was
There's
awesome.
nothing around there. There's a
But I'll
lodge, I
tell you,
think. Yeah.
it there's a line of people waiting to buy cars here, and then you hey, where are you from? They're coming from Baltimore and DC. They're eating the lunch of these big DC dealer groups. They're so good at used car acquisition. He's selling 10 to 1 used cars. He's
Yes.
making money. This place rules. And then I'm dealing with JR over the phone, maybe Zoom, stuff like that. He pulls up to the dealership. He's in a hoodie and sweatpants. And I'm like, I just like fell in love with that store. I think it's
Oh
my
yeah.
favorite car
Yeah.
dealership in America.
Yeah. JR's a special person. JR does not do things for personal gain.
I agree.
He, so if you know him, you know that he cares about his people more than himself, and I've seen that in action. And the second thing is he wants the customers to feel like they're family. And he makes that happen. So no wonder they come from afar. And he owns 3 stores, 2 Fords and an independent.
Yeah.
And between them, he's doing about 350, 400 used cars a month in the middle of nowhere. And, dealers will say, well, I don't want to be a JR Toothman. Well, you don't need to be a JR Toothman. You just need to know how to be the best at what you can be using some of those best practices. You won't, and so uh, JR's heavily reliant on auction because of where he lives, and yet he
Yeah.
still makes a nice living on auction cars. Most dealers would beg for that kind of money on auction cars because he knows how to do it and do it well.
I think that's the innate credibility of the company you built, John, is your affiliation with him, your background, your acumen, you're a used car consultant, but man, you paired yourself. It's not the biggest store in the country, but it's the number one store in the country with the biggest outsized outcome. They shouldn't
Oh,
sell
good way to
350
put
used
that.
cars a month.
So I'm so glad you said that because he is a Time Dealer of the Year nominee.
I
Just a few
hope he
years back.
wins. I didn't know that. He's got to
Oh no,
win.
it was a few years back. He didn't win, but
Oh, okay.
still, very special. And then you know, he he runs an amazing new car business in Fairmont. So he knows both sides of the business, but he's not afraid to take what the market will give him and maximize.
Mm.
He doesn't try to be what he's not. And that's what, building Agile we did together is say, look, this needs to be custom to the store and the market. We don't want to make you something that you're not, because that's when you'll fail. So
Oh yeah.
each one of his 3 stores that has Agile in it, the dashboards look completely different, and it should. And I think that's where he helped me with the secret sauce. Don't try to make everybody what you want them to be. A platform
So
can do that.
So you approach JR, you're consulting with JR. That's cool, foot in the door. Then the two of you throw some money together, and then what is that pile of money immediately used for? Is it a website and a logo, or what you hiring
No,
developers? What are
no.
you
So,
doing with it?
so I think the good news is with the spreadsheets that we put into PHP, we had a proof of concept already.
Hmm.
And so then we had a little bit of product market fit, but we weren't 100% sure because we need to scale it. Maybe it was just a niche. And then you want to be careful not to invest in a niche because that's tough. So the first thing I did was I went out and I found a DevOps team, and I found some really great people, a leader in the US from automotive that ran that team for me as a consultant and a contractor. And then we had a bunch of folks overseas that made it affordable to build this platform. It took a year. I thought it would take
Wow.
4 months. It took a year, and it took 2 years to really make it a marketable product. And
Were you going were you going without income during that period?
oh yeah, I didn't take income for 2 years.
Did you
I,
take on any debt to build your company?
I depleted my savings, yeah, along with the
You
investment, but I
depleted
didn't
your
take
savings at what
pretty much
age? At what age did you go all in like that?
55. I'm almost 60 now.
Wow. So, John, like
Well,
respectfully,
my
John, like,
liquid savings, not my 401k, not my pension, all that's still intact. My house is paid for, but all the cash I had went into this.
so it had to work.
It had to work.
Amazing. I
Yeah.
don't I don't have that kind of courage, John. I'm like Captain Cash Flow it as I go. I have a lot of belief that, I will rise to the occasion of my expenses. And sometimes I'll hire ahead of myself and burn for 30 days, 90 days if needed. But I don't know if I have the heart to take on debt.
Yeah, and so look, I had to promise my wife that we would pay off the house and I would never touch our 401k and pension, and then she let me do the rest. And it
Wow.
was,
It's
I mean,
like you're it's you're an entrepreneur, but you're having a conversation as if it's like I won't relapse. You know, you're
Right.
like
Yeah,
on
yeah, yeah.
like
But I can promise you, John, the first 2 years I was on my knees every day, and wondering
really
if
you
I
were
should have done this.
praying to make it.
Praying to make it, praying is this, take it away if it's not right. Don't let me keep investing if it's not what it's meant to be. And I can tell you, dealers built our platform. What
Yeah.
I thought was the greatest thing in our platform, which is amazing, was not enough to get us
Hmm.
where we are today. It was the skint knees, dealers leaving us, telling us why they left, why we were a convenience and not a need, that brought us to at the beginning. It's the Q3 of last year. So Q3 and Q4, we finally hit that niche where we're a need, not a want.
So, John, how did you handle like internally you're boiling with stress, but you're a guy of faith, so you're praying to God
Mhm.
and you realize that worry does you no good. But how do you manage that stress and not let that affect the people that work for you, your business
Mm.
partners, your daily attitude? How do you maintain a really good balance and an encouraging positive attitude every day? Because I struggle with that sometimes. We're successful, we're profitable. Some months we hit so much money in revenue sometimes that I'll tell you what, when I left car dealership guy John, I thought I'd never be able to have something as cool as that. And my goal was to build something that maybe that get time, but man, I really think I have something as cool as that.
I
And
100%, a
and
hundred
it's
percent.
like, how did you manage that doubt and worry and stress?
Still have it, even with success. Danny Zavlosky at BenQ told me, and Chris Hogue, as long as they've been doing it and as much revenue and success they have, it's like it never goes away. So it's nice to
Really?
hear that. But I put people like that around me so I can vet and say, this is what I'm feeling. Is it normal? Am I okay? But even that is just giving me perspective. For me personally, I'm type A. I'm an ex-Marine or a Marine,
Yeah.
so I'm hot tempered, and I have to stay grounded in my faith. And what I tell myself every morning is, I'm going to step back and let you step forward, and Jesus, you take the wheel.
I
I will
think
work
I
my
think
behind
that a
off.
lot of entrepreneurs find faith. I think that I'm
I don't
not
know
that
how you
I
do it otherwise.
Yeah, I think you do have to find faith, and I think that you have to pray, and I think that you really have to lean on something greater than yourself in order to bring it to
Your higher
fruition.
power, certainly, yeah, whatever that is for you. For me, it's Jesus, but I don't force my beliefs on anybody, but find something greater than you, because how stressful is it to think it's all on you? Oh my
Mhm.
word. If you thought it was all on you, I don't know if I could handle that.
And then talk to me about the moment where like, what was the big moment where perhaps everything seemed like it's gonna work out? Or like, "Hey, here's something that's we've crested profitability," or a moment that's basically said, "Holy smokes, we got some momentum, like, let's double down, burn I know we burned the ships, but let's burn them again." Like, what tell us about that.
Yeah, so we built it was an accident, John. I mean, again, I got to give it to the glory of God, because it wasn't something I thought was going to be as big as it was, but we built the nucleus that you stick into Iron Man. The thing
Mhm.
that makes it all light up and go, and that's called our Agile Vehicle Analysis A rank engine. It's what made, when I was sitting in a hotel room, we're going to a baseball tournament. Um, I didn't have much time, but H. Greg wanted to talk. This was 3 quarters ago, and I get into
Yeah.
a closet in the lobby with a garbage can sitting next to me, and I'm trying to pitch this platform, and everything looks good, and they kind of like it, but no, it's cool. I kind of like it. And then I show them our A rank analysis, and they're like, "What's this?"
Mm.
I'm like, "This is what drives all the intelligence I'm showing you that no one else has with our
And you
proprietary."
you thought it was, like, not a
Secondary,
throwaway, but you didn't think it
secondary,
was a blockbuster.
secondary,
Yeah.
secondary. I knew it was
That
important, but I didn't think it was primary. And it isn't for everybody, but for the big houses that do this analytics in house, we do it twice as fast with predictability, not just current day data. We show them what it means for tomorrow. And it literally, their excitement got me re excited. And when they came on board, and then that's what brought Auto Canada on board, and that's what's got these other big ones looking at it. They're like, this is something we can't do on our own, even with all the
is that
data house.
huge Is that the thing that's like your retention play as well? It's the thing that they become dependent on. They
Yes.
can't operate their business without Agile Auto now.
Well, what it did for some of them was they got to reassign this human capital, like people from Shearson Lehman Brothers they had brought in house. to strategy instead of data collection. So that they took really important, smart people that were digging in BI tools and all these other data platforms, and they said, "Wait a minute, you accumulate all the data and do all the work for us. Now all we have to do is read your prescriptive outcomes and then make decisions on what we want to do tomorrow based on your
Man,
recommendations." Saves them
that
hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars.
entrepreneurship's such a journey, John, and I really applaud everyone for entering it. And I think it actually is like kind of a, you know, nationwide imperative. I think that everybody should, go out
Mhm.
there and see if they can make it. And I really, I think with the advent of these new technology tools and the threat of AI, working for these large companies may not be what it was promised to our fathers. You may not have
Yeah,
the 401k and the 30-year career, but I believe that it's a really good time. It's like a renaissance for creative people that spent time in an industry, and then they go ahead and they look at the challenges that were presented to them in there, and then they back into a tool that they can just turn around and sell back into that industry. And
that's
you're a
it.
great example of that. I think I'm an example of that, but I don't know if I have the scale and product market fit that you have. But how easy is it nowadays with vibe coding platforms and stuff like that? I was on the phone with a used car manager who had some strange acquisition playbook a second ago, and then you hopped on the call and we were having fun with him. But he was faced with this exact issue that you described, and he didn't know Agile Auto. So I said, "Hey, check out Agile Auto. I hope you guys hop on and do a demo." But what a moment, John, where people in stores now they think they can build their own fixes, and it never was that way.
No, it's pretty cool to watch. One of the things, we had to invest heavily in our own servers and LLMs because the difference, the data's there, and you can absorb that data and have a very smart algorithm inside of chat or AI give you a display that you couldn't have before, like that.
Mhm.
And I think yours is the thing that made us different that I knew was important is imagine having JR's brain, Scott's brain, Robert Hollingshead's brain, a little bit of my brain. That's where the algorithms were built.
Shout
So
out Holland, best interview in automotive, Bob
oh god,
Hollingshead,
if he
just
didn't cuss
shot out
100
of a
times,
cannon.
yeah. But he's a mentor and a strategic advisor and many others as well. And so it's their brain that's when I produce the math, they look at the relational condition that the dealer needs to consider before they make their next move. And you got to write that in the LLMs, and the LLMs have to be Robert and Joe and John and everybody else. And that's what's so time consuming and costly.
What do you think of the in-store career track nowadays? Of like when I was a salesman, becoming a manager, a general manager, maybe a partner to an owner. Do you think that that's still the career track that it always was? Is it now better than it ever was? What do you think of that?
Yeah, I think we dismantled that model during COVID. People were making 100, 200, 400 grand a year on the floor.
Yeah,
And so
I
those,
did. I made so much money during COVID. It was
I know
insane.
you did. It was hard to watch because you knew the bubble was going to burst and you knew. So this layer of talent that was in the store, like yourself, couldn't, once COVID kind of dropped, couldn't make the money at any level. Maybe the GM,
Yeah.
but they weren't ready for that. So we lost a lot of great talent in that middle layer when we lost that income stream. But I think we're building it back. We're seeing a lot of young people getting back into the industry. The economy is strong. Unfortunately, we still have some issues in the automotive sector that will hopefully filter out to the next couple of years. But I like the career path. I think it's the one you can make good money, support a family, and do very well. But it has to be a good fit for you. You have to be willing to, you know, take that path and run with it, and not you
I
can't have.
yeah, I remember my interview when I decided to, go into Coons. It was basically like one day you're gonna have to miss a lot of your kids' soccer games.
I didn't know how to
And
say that well, but you're saying it better than me.
they said, "How willing are you to skip almost all of your kids' soccer games?" And I was
Yeah,
22, and what I said, John, I said I can do that. And looking
yeah,
back, I go, "Wow, what a naive moron! That's the dumbest thing anyone's ever said. He shouldn't do
yeah.
that." But that lessons you only learn once you have daughters and you grow up a little bit. But
I love
John,
that they were being
what's on the
honest with you.
horizon for you? Are you attending any events? Do you have anything coming up with Agile Auto?
Yeah, we do. We have a great event in the Florida area, Mississippi, Tennessee, Alabama, Florida, and Louisiana Auto Dealers Association coming up in June. In May, we have a SodaCon. That should be a really
Oh
big
yeah,
one. I'm
that's a good one.
expecting
Back
I'll
in
see
my
you there.
hometown in Baltimore. You know,
Yeah.
John, I think we should finish on this. You're an LSU fan. I'm a Clemson grad. We got a game in September. You guys are favored by probably 30 points. But you know, Lane Kiffin does have to pay for his crimes. So I think I think that you and I should put $5 on that game.
Done.
How many points are you going to give me for that dirtbag Lane Kiffin?
How many points am I going to give you? Maybe six.
You'll give me
Maybe,
6? I'll take
maybe, but
6.
I like three better, but I'll give you six. You've got
You
six.
already gave me 6, John.
I
All
know.
right,
Being
$5 bet
generous.
with 6 points to the Clemson Tigers from John Ellis. Everybody needs to go check out Agile Auto. I think John is an inspiring entrepreneur. He's sponsored with the best car dealer, or partnered with the best car dealer in the country, J.R. Toothman. The guys at Agile Auto are solving real problems. And John, you're a great friend of mine, and thank you for supporting us.
Thank you for. This has been a pleasure.
Thank you, John.